essentially and say that means something other than all the time, he's going to have to say, not only did I came in there and lied, not only did I come in there and lie, Lyle Creek came in there and lied. And while Dawkins and Devine didn't testify, if they had, here's what they would have said. It meant something else. Now that seems pretty, you laugh, that seems pretty stupid. But you know what? I'm worried, I'm scared to death about that case. Why? Why would I be concerned about that? Sounds like a lock. Because the arbitrators, that's a big case. And once they figure out if the union wins this, they got to go out here and maybe hire a bunch of people and that kind of stuff. That's hard for them to do. And we're waiting on that decision. We just got an email early last week from Doss. It's late. Of course, as you know, he was the interest arbitrator for the NALC. So he's heard all the evidence about how the Postal Service is going broke, and they truly are. And the Postal Service is counting on him to say, well, you know, the union may be right, but I can't give this to them because the Postal Service just can't afford it. That's their case. And that's not the role of a rights arbitrator. You got two different kinds of arbitrators. You got rights arbitration, where an arbitrator is supposed to give you whatever rights you have. And you got interest arbitrators, where they decide what you ought to have, which is what they just went through. Now, that he was an interest arbitrator in the NALC case, so he could say in that case legitimately the union shouldn't have this. But as a rights arbitrator, it's his job not to interpret what the parties should have done, but to enforce what the parties actually did. And that's what I'm hopeful about that case, but you can see how important that case is, not only to that issue, but to the post plan, which I'll get to in just a minute. That brings us up to the national arbitration schedule. And I'm very proud, that's one of the things I'm most proud of. Since I've been in Director of Industrial Relations, we have scheduled and arbitrated more cases. I think it's unprecedented. I know it is. Unprecedented, the number of cases that we've brought to arbitration, and in a timely manner. January 15 and 16 of this year, we hired another national arbitrator, Goldberg. Some of you may remember him from our interest case. That's a very good arbitrator, very wise guy. I don't mean that in a bad sense. Very smart guy. And the issue in that was where they contracted out the entire state of California for motor vehicle service. Now, the whole crowd, the future of the motor vehicle crowd is at stake in that case. And the union has spent, I can tell you that case has cost us well over $100,000 to present it. Goldberg's $2,600 a day. Expert witnesses that we have to hire $750 an hour. Economists we have to keep on retainer every month, $6,000 to $7,000 a month, just to have them around in case we need them to testify. You know what I'm talking about, Hopkins and that group. He's gone, but I forget the lady's name that took his place. Who is it, Steve? What?
Catherine Colby.
Catherine Colby. Lots of money, lots of high stakes, and the union has pulled out multiple days of hearing. And we should have a decision on the early part of that probably in the next week or two. So that was January 15 and 16. We had days from last year. I'm just giving you this year. January 29 and 30, Article 32 1C. That's a case that's very important to the maintenance craft as well as to the motor vehicle craft. It has to do with field versus headquarters, contracting out those disputes. We finished that case up day before yesterday in DC. That's why I was late coming in last night. And also we did the Rock Creek Gravel case yesterday. For you maintenance folks, you know what that case is. That case has been completed and is in the books. Next week, March 5th, we're doing a 12.5B2 dispute. Now this is new language in the contract. If you look at 12.5B2, you don't have to look at it now, I'll tell you briefly what it is. That's the language that says if you're excessing, say 50 miles of Little Rock, if you're excessing, you take a compass and you draw a 50-mile circle around there, and any PSE hours that are inside that circle, if you can create duty assignments out of those hours, you got to create those so people won't be excess beyond or sent to another craft, in another installation, that kind of stuff. They've decided they don't believe that's what the language means, and you read the language, it's very clear. So it's very nice, it's great to be in a position We actually had this case scheduled for arbitration several weeks before we even finished doing the dispute and the 15-day letters. So that case is going to be arbitrated on March 5th. Again, a very timely case for what's going on right now with our members. On March 6th, the PSC pay exception case. Now we know that in some areas, the PSC rates, you can't get drivers, for example, at the rates that were negotiated for PSCs. And we're even seeing it in the clerk craft up in the Dakotas where they got all that oil shale money, where they can't get PSCs and they want to pay them at a higher rate than the rate that's negotiated for in the contract. And the contract says they can do that, but they must get concurrence with the union first. And we haven't concurred, and it's not that we don't want our members to make more. Of course we do. But the Postal Service, you know how they're wanting to do that? If, let's say they pay, let's say these 4 guys here are PSCs, and they hire Kerry at 16 bucks an hour, I'm just making this up, whatever the rate is, 16 bucks an hour. They hire Dennis at 16 bucks an hour, and they hire Bruce at 16 bucks an hour, and then they can't get anybody else for 16 bucks an hour. So they figure they got to raise the rate to 18 bucks to get anybody to work. So they come and hire Teddy at 18 bucks, yet they want to still keep paying these 3 guys 16 bucks while the most junior person in the house is making 18 bucks. Yeah. How's that for bizarro work? That's inverse, Senor. No union in its right mind would agree to anything so stupid. We got to arbitrate that. Thankfully, we've got our grievance process at the national level to a point where we can get them into arbitration quickly rather than waiting 10 to 15 years. So that's going to be heard on March 6th. March 28, 29, it's an old dispute. Been around a while, but it needs to be answered, and it's about the hub clerks. We still have them in some of the small post offices. This is PTFs who hub in offices around. Whether or not, if they volunteer, they get mileage and travel time. So that dispute will be finally resolved, one way or the other. Then April 16 and 17 is the post plan. A huge, huge case. This is the one where they took the, we agreed in our contract that in 15s, 16s, and 18s, how much work they could do. So what does the Postal Service do? We also agreed that when postmasters and supervisors stop performing the work they used to do, who's going to do it? That's in a small MOU in here. Comes back to the clerk craft, right? Who had been, if they're the ones who've been doing that work. So when they decided, well, we know we agreed to 15 hours and all this in level 15, so what are we going to do? We're going to quit calling them level 15s. So we don't have to abide by this anymore. We're going to call them 2, 4, and 6 offices. And we're going to keep using. We also agreed in here that PMRs won't be used in those offices. They're bringing PMRs or the PSCs who are replacement for PMRs, the 81A PSCs. Bringing it, so there's all kinds of, and I think we've got our strongest case probably ever. That they, not only did they violate our contract, they tore it up and spit on it and threw it in the ground and ground it into dust and everything else with post plan. And I'm sure, and I'm almost sure, we're going to have to go to arbitration on it. But the problem again, what they've done with post plan has been vetted through the PRC. They let these postmasters go. They gave them early outs, that kind of stuff. It's going to take an arbitrator with a lot of guts to go in there and kick all those people out and say, nope, you got to go that, you got to put clerks back in all these offices. So that's what we're facing. I think we got a good case, but sometimes you just got to fight. And I think we're talking about trying to settle that, but I really don't think it's, I don't know what Cliff thinks about it, but I don't think it's in the cards. I think we'll be arbitrating that. And the good news is we'll be doing it in April. So we should have it. And this is Goldberg, and he's a lot quicker. And Goldberg, frankly, has got more gumption, more, what? Cajon, well, I wouldn't want to do that. April 24 and 25th. That was Goldberg. Casuals versus POT. You might say, well, why penalty overtime? You might say, why do you care about that? We don't even have casuals anymore. Because the same language, the question is whether they, you got to give overtime opportunities first to career employees. The Postal Service has taken a position that there's an unwritten exception in the contract for penalty overtime. They took it with casuals, but the same, whatever the language, we're going to go to arbitration because the language didn't change. You just take casuals out and insert PSEs. So that award will cover that. So that will be an issue that needs resolved. May 1st and 2nd, before Goldberg began, the PSE usage dispute. That's the one about how you count the PSEs for retail, that issue. The level 4 PSE that is improper to use in a level 15. It's improper for them to use a level 4 PSE in an office where the clerks who were there are making level 6. We got a Q&A that Cliff signed in June of 2011 that says PSEs will be paid at the same level as the employees that they're replacing. But we got to go to arbitration. May 7 and 8, Function 4 and Function 1 NS days. That's where the consecutive NS days in Function 1 and consecutive NS days in Function 4, those issues. May 21 and 22, the AOI remedy case. This is a case, I believe, Steve, that's, the merits has already been heard, right? It's just about the remedy. He may want to talk to you about that. I don't know that much about it. That's Steve's case. So that's set for May 21, 22 before DOS. June 11 and 12, you know, we've got 3 new call centers, and that's part of the work that we got brought back. Was the call centers. There's one in New Jersey. There's one in, where are they, Lamont? Troy, Michigan. And LA. LA and Kilmer? Kilmer, New Jersey. 1,100 new jobs, but they created them at levels 3, 4, and 5, or 4, 5, and 6?
No, 4, 5, and 6.
4, 5, and 6. We challenged the level. That's another dispute that we haven't got completely, the paperwork's not completely done on it yet, but we've got it scheduled in June to try to get those jobs raised up to a higher level. Again, the benefit of having a grievance procedure that you can get issues to arbitration while people are still alive who care about it. And then finally, in June, we haven't set our July through December schedule yet, but the last one in June is June 26, 27, and that's the PSEs counted against the lead clerk percentages. You know, there's a formula in the Clerk Craft Jobs memo about lead clerks and how many you have. The Postal Service has taken the position that you only count career employees when you're doing the, figuring on how many lead clerks you'll have. And you think about that a minute, how counterintuitive that is. You would think the more, they don't want to count PSEs. You'd think the more PSEs you have, the more you would need a lead, not the less. You'd think the opposite would be true. And they're taking a position that PSEs should not count as part of the complement. The only problem is the contract doesn't support that. They are now in the bargaining unit. They are part of the complement. We believe we can have a very good case there. Lamont may want to talk about that. That case may settle, but we'll see. So that's where we are. Now I want to talk to you very briefly about something that's going on out there now in some areas. And it's because of the 50 miles. I know in Manchester, is it? What's it?
Mansfield.
Mansfield, Ohio is a good example.